There's something about the darkness that makes everything feel heavier, isn't there? Not just the physical darkness of night, but that deeper darkness of not knowing what lies ahead. That space between where you are right now and where you're going. It can feel like an ocean that stretches beyond what your eyes can see. Tonight, as you settle into this moment, perhaps you're carrying questions that don't have answers yet. Maybe you're holding worries about things that haven't happened, fears about paths you haven't walked, concerns about doors that haven't opened or closed. The weight of the unknown can feel overwhelming, like carrying stones in your pockets that grow heavier with each step into uncertainty. Your mind has probably been working overtime, hasn't it? Creating stories about what might happen, playing out scenarios that may never come to pass, rehearsing conversations that may never need to happen. It's exhausting, this mental dance with possibilities and probabilities. Your heart races at 3 in the morning as you think about all the things that could go wrong, all the ways things might not work out, all the paths that might lead to disappointment or pain. There's a particular kind of tiredness that comes from trying to see around corners that haven't revealed themselves yet. It's different from physical exhaustion. It's the weariness of a soul that's been straining to peer into a future that remains stubbornly hidden. You've probably felt it settling into your bones, this fatigue from wrestling with questions that have no immediate answers. The unknown has a way of making us feel small, doesn't it? Like children standing at the edge of a vast forest, unable to see beyond the first line of trees. We squint and strain, hoping to catch a glimpse of what waits deeper in the woods. But the path disappears into shadow and mystery. And in that not knowing, our minds begin to fill in the blanks with our deepest fears and darkest imaginings. But here's something to consider as you breathe slowly and let your shoulders drop just a little. This feeling you're experiencing, this weight of uncertainty, it's not a flaw in your character or a weakness in your spirit. It's deeply, profoundly human. Every soul that has ever walked this earth has stood exactly where you're standing right now, at the threshold between the known and the unknown, feeling that same mixture of anxiety and anticipation. Your ancestors felt it when they looked up at skies they couldn't predict, wondering if the rains would come in their season. They felt it when they planted seeds in ground that might yield harvest or heartbreak. They felt it when they loved deeply, knowing that every heart that opens also risks breaking. They felt it when they closed their eyes each night, uncertain of what the dawn might bring. This uncertainty you're carrying, it connects you to every human heart that has ever beaten with hope and fear intertwined. You are not alone in this feeling, even when the darkness makes it seem like you're the only one awake in a sleeping world, the only one wrestling with questions that have no easy answers. The mind, bless it, tries so hard to protect us by figuring everything out in advance. It works tirelessly, like a devoted servant trying to map every possible route through an unmappable territory. It creates Plan A and Plan B and Plan C, and then worries about what happens if none of those plans work out. It's trying to love you, really, by preparing you for every contingency, but in the process, it often creates more suffering than the actual events ever could. Right now, as you listen to these words, notice how your mind might already be racing ahead, thinking about tomorrow's challenges or next week's uncertainties. Notice how it wants to solve problems that don't exist yet, to answer questions that haven't been asked, to prepare for battles that may never come. This is what minds do. They time travel, taking you everywhere except the present moment where you actually have some measure of peace. But what if, just for now, you could set down that heavy backpack of unknowns? What if you could let your mind rest from its constant vigilance, its endless scanning of horizons for potential threats or problems? What if you could give yourself permission to not have all the answers tonight? There's something almost violent about the way we sometimes demand certainty from a life that was never designed to offer it. We grip so tightly to our need to know, to control, to predict, that our hands cramp and our hearts ache from the effort. We exhaust ourselves trying to be fortune tellers in our own lives, as if knowing the future would somehow make us safer, happier, more prepared for whatever comes. But think about it. Even if you could see everything that was coming, would it truly bring peace? Or would it simply give you more things to worry about, more variables to control, more outcomes to manage? Sometimes the kindest thing that can happen to a heart is to be gently relieved of the burden of knowing everything that lies ahead. Tonight, you don't have to carry the weight of tomorrow. You don't have to solve next month's problems or figure out next year's path. You don't have to have answers for questions that haven't fully formed yet. You can rest in not knowing, rest in the mystery, rest in the reality that some things are simply beyond your sight right now. And that's exactly as it should be. Your breathing is slowing as you consider this possibility, isn't it? There's something profoundly relieving about releasing the pressure to see around every corner, to have contingency plans for contingency plans. It's like setting down a suitcase you've been carrying for miles, feeling your muscles relax as the weight leaves your shoulders. The darkness of not knowing doesn't have to be your enemy. It can be a gentle teacher, inviting you to discover a different kind of strength. Not the strength that comes from controlling outcomes, but the strength that comes from trusting that you'll have what you need when you need it. Not the peace that comes from knowing every detail of your story, but the peace that comes from trusting the one who's writing it. As you settle deeper into this moment, notice how your body begins to soften when you're not asking it to carry the tension of tomorrow's uncertainties. Notice how your breath deepens when you're not holding it in anticipation of future difficulties. Notice how your heart rate slows when you're not asking it to race ahead into scenarios that may never unfold. This is what happens when you stop fighting the mystery and start finding rest in it. This is what happens when you stop demanding answers from the darkness and start trusting that light will come when light is needed. This is what happens when you remember that you've never actually been alone in your uncertainty, even when it felt like you were carrying it all by yourself. The weight you've been carrying, those questions without answers, those fears about what might happen, those worries about paths not yet revealed, they're not yours to carry alone. They never were. You've been trying to be Atlas, holding up the whole world of your future on your shoulders, when you were only ever meant to take one step at a time, to trust one day at a time, to rest in the knowledge that you are held and guided and loved beyond your ability to see or understand. Let your eyelids grow heavy with the relief of not having to figure it all out tonight. Let your muscles release the tension of trying to control what's beyond your control. Let your mind slow its frantic searching for certainty in an uncertain world. You are safe to rest in the mystery. You are safe to trust what you cannot see. You are safe to let go of the weight you were never meant to carry alone. Tomorrow will bring its own grace, its own guidance, its own provision. But tonight, you can rest in the profound peace that comes from releasing your grip on the future and trusting that the same love that has carried you this far will continue to carry you forward, one gentle step at a time, into whatever beautiful and mysterious thing your life is becoming. As you breathe slowly and let that weight settle away from your shoulders, something beautiful begins to emerge from beneath all that worry and uncertainty. It's been there all along, waiting patiently under the noise of your anxious thoughts. It's the quiet voice of your own experience, whispering truths your heart already knows, but your mind sometimes forgets. Pause for a moment and let your memory wander backward, not to relive old pain, but to notice something profound that's been happening in your life all along. Think about a time when you were absolutely certain everything was going to fall apart. Remember that knot in your stomach, that sleepless night, that conviction that there was no way through whatever mountain stood in your path. Now notice something remarkable. You're here. You made it through. Somehow, some way, a path appeared where there seemed to be no path. Resources showed up when you thought you had none left. Strength came from somewhere deep inside when you were sure you'd reached the end of your endurance. Doors opened that you didn't even know existed. People appeared in your life exactly when you needed them most. This isn't coincidence. This is the pattern of your life, the thread of faithfulness that runs through every chapter of your story, even the difficult ones. Especially the difficult ones. Your heart knows this truth, even when your mind is clouded with worry about what comes next. Think about the times when you had no idea how you were going to pay for something you desperately needed, and then somehow the money appeared. Maybe it came through an unexpected opportunity, a forgotten resource, a gift from someone who cared. Maybe it came through a solution you never could have imagined when you were lying awake calculating and recalculating numbers that wouldn't add up the way you needed them to. Remember the relationship that seemed impossible to heal, the one where the hurt ran so deep you couldn't imagine ever finding your way back to love or even basic kindness. Yet somehow, over time, hearts softened. Words were spoken that needed to be spoken. Forgiveness crept in like dawn. So gradually you barely noticed it happening until one day you realized the resentment had lifted and something new had taken its place. Consider the health scare that terrified you, when your body seemed to betray everything you thought you could count on. Remember the fear that gripped you as you waited for test results, imagined worst-case scenarios, wondered how you would cope if the news was devastating. And yet here you are, breathing, living, finding your way through whatever came, stronger perhaps than you knew you could be. Your heart holds these memories like treasures, evidence of a love that shows up in practical ways, in perfect timing, in provision that arrives precisely when you need it most. Not always when you want it, not always in the form you expected, but always, somehow, exactly what your situation required. This pattern of provision isn't random. It's not luck or chance or happy accidents strung together across the years of your life. It's evidence of something deeper, something that sees your needs before you even recognize them yourself. Something that's been orchestrating solutions while you've been focused on problems. Think about the job that came through just when your finances were stretched to breaking. The friend who called exactly when you needed to hear a caring voice. The idea that popped into your head and solved a problem you'd been wrestling with for weeks. The unexpected gift that arrived on the day when you most needed to feel remembered and loved. These moments weren't flukes. They were footnotes in a larger story. A story that's been unfolding around you and through you since the day you were born. It's the story of a love so vast and attentive that it notices when sparrows fall, when flowers need rain, when human hearts need comfort and provision and hope. Your mind might want to rationalize all of this away, to explain each incident as mere coincidence or natural consequence. But your heart knows better. Your heart has been keeping track of all the times when there was no logical reason for things to work out, and yet they did. All the times when you were certain you were on your own, and yet somehow you weren't. All the times when you thought you'd reached the end of your rope, only to discover there was more rope than you realized. This knowing lives in your bones, in the cellular memory of every crisis that became a testimony, every valley that led to a mountaintop, every ending that turned out to be a beginning in disguise. Your body carries the wisdom of having been carried through difficult seasons, of having been provided for in lean times, of having been loved back to life when you thought love was gone forever. Even now, as uncertainty clouds your view of tomorrow, your heart holds the steady rhythm of this deeper truth. That you have never, not once, been abandoned to face your challenges alone. You may have felt alone. You may have believed you were alone. But the evidence of your own life tells a different story. Every sunrise you've witnessed has been a gift you didn't have to earn. Every breath you've taken has been provided without your having to think about it, or work for it, or deserve it. Every beat of your heart has been sustained by a love so fundamental that it operates below the level of your conscious awareness, keeping you alive and functioning even when you're too worried to notice. The food that has sustained you, the water that has refreshed you, the shelter that has protected you, the relationships that have nurtured you, all of it has been provision, evidence of a care so vast and consistent that you often take it for granted. But tonight, in this quiet moment, you can let yourself feel grateful for the unending stream of gifts that have made your life possible. And if you've been provided for in all these ways, ways you didn't even have to ask for, ways you didn't even think to worry about, how much more will you be provided for in the things that currently keep you awake at night? If your needs have been met consistently, faithfully, lovingly up until this very moment, why would that pattern suddenly stop now? Your worry assumes that this time is different, that this particular challenge will be the one that finally overwhelms the providence that has carried you this far. But your heart knows better. Your heart has experienced too many impossible situations that turned out to be possible after all. Too many closed doors that led to better doors. Too many endings that were actually new beginnings in disguise. This doesn't mean life has been easy for you. You've known pain, loss, disappointment, fear. You've walked through valleys that seemed endless, faced storms that nearly knocked you down. But even in those difficult seasons, you were never truly alone. Even in your darkest moments, love was present, working in ways you couldn't see, preparing solutions while you were focused on problems. The provision hasn't always looked the way you expected it to look. Sometimes it came as strength to endure rather than immediate rescue. Sometimes it came as wisdom to navigate difficulty rather than a path around it. Sometimes it came as peace in the midst of chaos rather than the elimination of chaos itself. But it always came. It has never failed to come. Your heart knows this truth so deeply that it keeps beating, keeps hoping, keeps trusting even when your mind is spinning with anxiety about what comes next. Your heart has learned to recognize the signature of this love in the details of your daily life, in the synchronicities that seem too perfect to be accidental, in the way things have a tendency to work out even when they seem impossible. As you rest in this knowing, feel how your breathing naturally deepens. Feel how your muscles begin to release tension they didn't even realize they were holding. Feel how your mind begins to quiet its frantic searching for answers and assurances. This is what happens when you remember what your heart has always known. That you are held, provided for, loved beyond measure, and guided by a wisdom far greater than your own ability to figure things out. The same love that has brought you safely to this moment is already preparing what you'll need for tomorrow. The same provision that has sustained you through every previous challenge is already anticipating your future needs. The same faithfulness that has never once abandoned you is even now orchestrating solutions to problems you haven't encountered yet. You can rest in this knowing. You can trust this pattern. You can let your heart's wisdom override your mind's worry. You have been cared for every single day of your life, and that care isn't going to stop now. Not tomorrow, not next week, not next year. The love that has carried you this far will carry you all the way home. There's something almost sacred about the way twilight settles over the earth, isn't there? That gentle transition from the bright clarity of day into the soft mystery of evening. The world doesn't fight this daily surrender to darkness. It embraces it, knowing that rest and renewal come in the quiet hours when we cannot see as far or as clearly as we could in the bright light of noon. What if your current season of not knowing is like this twilight? What if the uncertainty you've been wrestling with isn't actually a problem to be solved, but a gift to be received? What if the very thing that's been causing you anxiety, this inability to see clearly what lies ahead, is actually one of the most beautiful aspects of being human? Consider for a moment what would happen if you could see everything that was coming in your life. Imagine if you had a crystal clear view of every conversation you'd have, every decision you'd make, every joy and every sorrow that waited on the path ahead. At first, this might seem like it would bring tremendous relief. No more uncertainty, no more wondering, no more late-night worry sessions about what tomorrow might bring. But think deeper. If you could see every challenge coming, you'd spend years dreading difficulties that might not arrive for decades. If you knew every loss that awaited you, you'd grieve future sorrows long before they actually touched your life. If you could see every mistake you were going to make, you'd carry the weight of shame for actions you hadn't even taken yet. Your beautiful, tender heart would break 1,000 times over, anticipating pain that hadn't yet arrived. You'd lose the ability to be fully present in moments of joy because you'd know exactly when they were going to end. You'd second-guess every decision because you'd see all the ways it might lead to difficulty down the road. The burden of knowing everything would be far heavier than the burden of knowing nothing. But there's something even more profound at work here. The mystery that currently surrounds your future isn't just protecting you from premature worry. It's actually creating space for something magnificent to unfold. It's creating space for surprise, for wonder, for the kind of jaw-dropping plot twists that make a life story worth telling. Think about the most beautiful moments in your life so far. How many of them did you see coming? How many of your greatest joys were things you planned and anticipated? More likely, they were surprises that caught you off guard, gifts that appeared when you least expected them, blessings that arrived in packages you never would have thought to unwrap. The love that found you when you'd given up on love. The opportunity that appeared just when you thought all doors were closed. The friendship that bloomed in the most unlikely circumstances. The moment of profound peace that settled over you in the middle of what should have been chaos. The sudden clarity that illuminated a path forward when you were certain you were lost. These moments of grace, these unexpected gifts, these beautiful surprises, they could only happen because you couldn't see them coming. They could only take your breath away because they arrived unannounced, like shooting stars streaking across a dark sky when you just happened to be looking up at exactly the right moment. The unknown isn't your enemy. It's the canvas on which the most beautiful parts of your story are painted. It's the dark soil in which the most stunning flowers of your life take root and bloom. It's the mysterious space where miracles have room to unfold, where love has space to surprise you, where hope can exceed your wildest expectations. Your inability to see around the next corner isn't a limitation, it's a liberation. It frees you from the exhausting burden of trying to control outcomes you were never meant to manage. It releases you from the impossible task of preparing for every contingency. It allows you to walk forward with open hands and an open heart, ready to receive whatever gifts are waiting to be placed in your path. This not knowing also creates space for you to grow in ways you never would if you could see everything coming. When you know exactly what's ahead, you prepare for it in predictable ways, drawing on resources and strengths you already know you possess. But when you walk into mystery, you discover capacities within yourself that you never knew existed. You learn that you're braver than you thought when you face fears you couldn't have prepared for. You discover that you're more resilient than you imagined when you bounce back from setbacks you never saw coming. You find wells of wisdom within yourself that only open up when you're forced to navigate uncharted territory. You uncover depths of compassion you didn't know you had when you encounter suffering you couldn't have anticipated. The uncertainty that feels so uncomfortable right now is actually the very thing that's making you stronger, wiser, more compassionate, more capable of handling whatever life brings your way. It's the resistance training of the soul, building spiritual muscles you didn't even know you needed. And here's something even more beautiful. The mystery of your future is also creating space for others to grow alongside you. When you can't see what's coming, you learn to lean on the wisdom and support of people around you. You discover the profound joy of being truly interdependent, of needing others and being needed by them in return. If you knew everything that was coming, you might be tempted to go it alone, to prepare in isolation, to protect yourself from potential disappointment by not depending on anyone else. But the beautiful uncertainty of life draws you into deeper relationships, into communities of care, into the kind of vulnerability that creates the strongest bonds between souls. Your not knowing becomes an invitation for others to share their own stories of walking through uncertainty and finding their way to the other side. Your questions become opportunities for others to offer their wisdom. Your fears become chances for others to extend comfort and courage. Your mystery becomes part of a larger tapestry of human experience, connecting you to everyone who has ever had to take a step forward without being able to see where they were going. This is how love multiplies in the world, not through having all the answers, but through being willing to sit with questions together. Not through seeing clearly, but through walking faithfully into the fog, hand in hand with others who are also learning to trust what they cannot see. The darkness of uncertainty also serves another profound purpose. It creates the perfect conditions for faith to flourish. Faith, by its very nature, requires an element of mystery. It cannot exist in the harsh light of complete knowledge, any more than stars can be seen in the brightness of midday. Faith needs the gentle darkness of uncertainty to shine its quiet light, to offer its steady guidance, to provide its peaceful assurance. When you can see exactly where you're going, you don't need faith, you need only planning and execution. But when the path ahead is shrouded in mystery, when you can only see a step or two in front of you, that's when faith becomes not just helpful but essential. That's when you discover that there's a different kind of seeing available to you, a spiritual vision that doesn't depend on physical sight. This inner sight grows stronger the more you use it. Like any muscle, it develops through exercise, through choosing to trust what you cannot see, through taking steps forward even when the ground ahead is hidden in shadow. Each time you choose faith over fear, trust over control, hope over despair, you're strengthening this deeper way of seeing, this ability to navigate by love rather than by sight. And as this inner vision develops, you begin to realize something extraordinary. You can actually see more clearly when you're not dependent on physical sight than when you are. When you're not distracted by trying to peer around corners and predict outcomes, you become more attuned to the subtle guidance that's always available in the present moment. You become more sensitive to the whispers of wisdom that arise from within, more aware of the signs and synchronicities that point you in the right direction. You start to notice the way certain paths feel lighter while others feel heavy. You begin to recognize the difference between the voice of fear, which always urges you to rush toward false certainty, and the voice of love, which invites you to rest in patient trust. You develop the ability to discern between the anxious energy of trying to control the future and the peaceful energy of surrendering to a wisdom greater than your own. This doesn't mean you become passive, or stop making plans, or cease taking action. Rather, you learn to hold your plans lightly, to take action from a place of trust rather than anxiety, to remain open to course corrections that might lead you to destinations more beautiful than any you could have imagined for yourself. You begin to understand that the journey itself is the destination, that the growing and learning and becoming that happens in the space between where you are and where you're going is just as important as any final outcome. You start to see that uncertainty isn't a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. Not a burden to be carried, but a gift to be received. The relief that washes over you as you embrace this perspective is almost physical, isn't it? Your shoulders drop, your breathing deepens, your jaw unclenches. There's something profoundly restful about releasing the need to see around every corner, to have backup plans for your backup plans, to figure out the ending before you've fully lived the middle of your story. This release doesn't make you irresponsible or naive. It makes you available to the magic that can only happen when you're not trying to script every scene of your life. It opens you up to possibilities you never would have considered, connections you never would have made, opportunities you never would have recognized if you'd been too focused on forcing your predetermined outcomes. The mystery of your future is not a wall blocking your path. It's a doorway leading to adventures you can't even imagine yet. It's not a problem that needs to be solved. It's an invitation to dance with the unknown, to find rhythm and grace in the space between questions and answers, to discover that there's a different kind of peace available to those who learn to trust what they cannot see. As you settle deeper into this understanding, notice how your relationship with uncertainty begins to shift. Instead of being something to fight against or overcome, it becomes something to be curious about, even grateful for. Instead of being a source of anxiety, it becomes a source of anticipation. Not the anxious kind of anticipation that comes from trying to control outcomes, but the joyful kind that comes from knowing that beautiful surprises are possible when you least expect them. This is the gift of not seeing everything. It keeps wonder alive in your life. It maintains the possibility for astonishment, for delight, for the kind of plot twists that make you laugh out loud at the creativity and generosity of love itself. It preserves your capacity to be amazed, to be surprised, to have your breath taken away by the beauty of what unfolds when you stop trying to write the story yourself and trust it to the author who knows how to craft endings more beautiful than any beginning could promise. Tonight, as you prepare to rest, you can let go of the burden of trying to see what's not yet yours to see. You can release the exhausting effort of trying to prepare for every possible future. You can trust that the same love that has limited your vision has also prepared exactly what you need for each step of the journey ahead. You can rest in the beautiful mystery of a life that's being written by hands far more skillful than your own. A story that's unfolding according to a love far more creative and generous than you could ever imagine. There comes a moment in every weary soul's journey when the effort of carrying everything becomes too much. The weight of worry, the burden of uncertainty, the exhausting work of trying to manage outcomes beyond your control. It all becomes heavier than what any human heart was designed to bear. And in that moment of beautiful exhaustion, something profound becomes possible: surrender. Tonight, as you feel the tiredness settling into your bones, recognize it not as weakness, but as wisdom. Your body and soul are telling you something important. You were never meant to carry it all. The ache in your shoulders from holding tension, the fatigue in your mind from endless planning and replanning, the heaviness in your heart from trying to protect yourself from every possible disappointment. These are all signs that you've been attempting something that was never your job in the first place. Imagine, for a moment, that you've been walking a long, difficult path while carrying a massive pack on your back. The pack is filled with all your worries about tomorrow, your fears about next month, your anxieties about next year. Every step becomes harder as you add more concerns to the load. What if this goes wrong? What if that doesn't work out? What if you're not strong enough or smart enough or prepared enough for what's coming? You've been walking this way for so long that you've forgotten what it feels like to move through life without this crushing weight. You've gotten so used to the strain that you barely notice how it's affecting your ability to enjoy the beauty along the path, to connect with fellow travelers, to notice the small miracles that appear beside the road each day. But now, in this quiet moment, someone is walking up behind you. Someone whose hands are infinitely larger than yours, whose shoulders are broader than you could ever imagine, whose strength never diminishes no matter how much weight is placed upon them. And this someone is gently reaching for the straps of your pack, offering to take the load that's been wearing you down. The relief that floods through you at this offer isn't just physical. It's spiritual, emotional, existential. It's the relief of a child who's been trying to move furniture, finally accepting help from a parent. It's the relief of someone who's been swimming against a current, finally allowing themselves to float. It's the relief of a mind that's been working overtime, finally receiving permission to rest. This someone who offers to carry your burdens sees the full picture of your life in ways you never could. While you've been focused on the problems immediately in front of you, this presence has been orchestrating solutions you haven't even thought of yet. While you've been worried about resources running out, this love has been preparing abundance in forms you wouldn't recognize. While you've been afraid of taking wrong turns, this wisdom has been preparing to bring good even out of your mistakes. The hands that reach for your burdens tonight are the same hands that have been guiding your story from the very beginning. They're the hands that formed you with infinite care, that have been writing your story with love as the central theme, that have been working behind the scenes of your life in ways both subtle and dramatic. These hands have never trembled with uncertainty, never shaken with fear, never grown tired from the weight of caring for you. As you feel this weight beginning to lift from your shoulders, notice how your breathing immediately becomes easier. The tight knot in your chest starts to loosen. The tension in your jaw begins to release. Your mind, which has been spinning like a wheel stuck in mud, finally finds solid ground and comes to rest. This is what happens when you stop trying to be Atlas and remember that you're beloved. The worries you've been carrying about your relationships, your health, your purpose, your security. These concerns don't disappear when you hand them over, but they transform. They stop being problems you have to solve and become matters you can trust to a love that knows how to work all things together for good. They stop being emergencies requiring your constant attention and become opportunities for grace to demonstrate its power. This doesn't mean you become passive or stop taking appropriate action in your life. Rather, it means you learn to act from a place of peace instead of panic, from trust instead of terror, from confidence in love's provision instead of fear of love's absence. You make decisions from a centered place instead of a scattered one, from wisdom instead of worry, from faith instead of frenzy. When you allow these bigger hands to carry what you cannot, something beautiful happens to your own hands. They become free. Free to create, to comfort, to connect, to bless. Free to receive gifts instead of constantly grasping for security. Free to be open instead of clenched in fear. Free to give generously instead of hoarding anxiously. Your heart, no longer compressed under the weight of managing the unmanageable, begins to beat with a different rhythm. Instead of the frantic pace of anxiety, it finds the steady cadence of trust. Instead of the irregular flutter of fear, it settles into the deep, slow rhythm of someone who knows they are safe. This is the heartbeat of a soul at rest, the pulse of someone who has remembered that they are held. Feel how this shift affects every part of your being. Your thoughts slow down, no longer racing ahead to catalogue potential problems. Your emotions settle, no longer swinging wildly between hope and despair based on your ability to see outcomes. Your spirit expands, no longer contracted in protective mode, now open to receive the love that has always been flowing toward you. The peace that begins to fill the space where anxiety used to live isn't just the absence of worry. It's the presence of something far more substantial. It's the peace that comes from knowing you're connected to a love so vast it can hold every concern you could ever have and still have infinite capacity for more. It's the peace that comes from trusting in a wisdom so profound it can see solutions to problems you haven't even encountered yet. This love that offers to carry your burdens isn't foreign to you. It's been present in your life all along, sometimes in ways so gentle you barely noticed. It was there in the perfectly timed phone call from a friend when you most needed encouragement. It was there in the unexpected opportunity that appeared just when you thought all doors were closed. It was there in the strength that somehow emerged from within you when you thought you had nothing left to give. It's been there in the sunrise that took your breath away on a morning when you most needed beauty. It's been there in the stranger's kindness that reminded you that goodness still exists in the world. It's been there in the moment of clarity that came after weeks of confusion, in the healing that happened faster than medical wisdom said it should, in the provision that appeared through channels you never would have thought to explore. This love has been carrying more of your load than you've ever realized. While you've been focused on the small percentage of your life that feels uncertain and challenging, this presence has been managing the vast majority of what keeps you alive, healthy, fed, sheltered, and surrounded by beauty. Your heart beats without your conscious effort. Your lungs breathe without your constant attention. Your body heals cuts and fights infections, and maintains countless complex processes without any input from your worried mind. The same love that maintains your physical body without your help is equally capable of maintaining your life circumstances, your relationships, your future. The same wisdom that orchestrates the incomprehensibly complex dance of biology in your cells can certainly handle the logistics of your earthly concerns. The same power that keeps planets in their orbits and seasons in their cycles can definitely manage the details of your daily existence. As this truth settles into your consciousness, feel how it affects your entire relationship with uncertainty. The unknown stops being a threat and becomes a space where love can work unhindered by your limited understanding. The mystery of tomorrow stops being something to fear and becomes something to anticipate with peaceful curiosity. The questions without answers stop being sources of anxiety and become invitations to trust more deeply. You begin to understand that your role in this beautiful partnership isn't to figure everything out or control all outcomes. Your role is much simpler and infinitely more restful. To show up present and available to each moment, to remain open to guidance as it comes, to take the next step that feels aligned with love and wisdom, and to trust that everything else is being handled by hands far more capable than your own. This surrender isn't a one-time event, but a practice you return to again and again, sometimes moment by moment. Each time you feel the weight of worry beginning to accumulate on your shoulders, you can pause and consciously hand it back to the love that's always ready to receive it. Each time your mind starts spinning with what-if scenarios, you can gently redirect it to the only question that really matters. What does love invite me to do right now? The relief of this practice becomes cumulative. The more you experience the peace of letting love carry what you cannot, the easier it becomes to recognize when you've started picking up burdens that aren't yours to bear. You develop sensitivity to the early warning signs of worry and the quick reflexes of surrender. You learn to catch yourself before you've walked miles under unnecessary weight. Tonight, as you prepare to rest, you can practice this surrender in the most fundamental way possible. By allowing sleep to come without your management or control, you can let your conscious mind step back and trust that your body knows how to restore itself, that your soul knows how to process the day's experiences, that your life knows how to continue unfolding even while you're unconscious. The act of falling asleep each night is actually a perfect metaphor for the kind of trust you're learning to live. You release control of your thoughts, your breathing, your awareness, and you trust that you'll be sustained through the dark hours and awakened refreshed when it's time. You don't worry about whether your heart will keep beating while you sleep or whether morning will actually come. You simply trust and let go. This same quality of trust is available to you for every area of your life that currently feels uncertain. Just as you can trust your body to sleep and your world to continue turning while you rest, you can trust that the love which holds all things is managing the details of your future with wisdom and care that far exceed your own capacity to orchestrate outcomes. Feel the profound relief of placing every concern, every question, every fear into these infinitely capable hands. Feel the peace that comes from knowing that you're part of a story being written by an author who specializes in happy endings, who can craft beauty from ashes, who can make all things work together for good. Feel the rest that settles over your soul when you remember that you're not responsible for holding the universe together. That job is already taken, and it's being done perfectly. As your breathing deepens and your muscles release their grip on tension, you're not just preparing for sleep. You're practicing the art of holy surrender, the beautiful discipline of letting love carry what you cannot. And in this surrender, you find not loss of control, but the discovery of perfect safety. Not weakness, but the source of all true strength. Not abandonment, but the experience of being held more securely than you ever knew was possible. The night has deepened around you now, and with it comes the most sacred invitation of all, the invitation to rest. Not just the rest of sleep, though that will come, but the deeper rest that comes from releasing your grip on tomorrow and settling completely into the safety of this present moment. This is where peace lives, not in having all the answers, but in trusting the one who holds all the questions. As you feel your body growing heavier against whatever supports you, notice how this physical surrender mirrors the spiritual surrender you've been practicing throughout this gentle journey. Your muscles are letting go of the day's tension, just as your heart is letting go of the day's worries. Your breathing is slowing and deepening, just as your spirit is settling into a profound trust. Your mind is quieting its constant chatter, just as your soul is finding its way to perfect stillness. This is what safety feels like, not the brittle safety of having everything under control, but the deep, abiding safety of knowing you are unconditionally loved and eternally held. It's the safety of a child who falls asleep in the back seat of a car during a long journey, completely unconcerned about navigation or traffic or arrival times because they trust completely in the driver. Tonight, you are that child, and the one who drives this universe knows exactly how to get you safely home. The worries that felt so urgent just hours ago are beginning to seem smaller from this peaceful perspective, aren't they? Like mountains that reveal themselves to be merely hills when viewed from a great height. Your concerns haven't disappeared, but they've found their proper proportion. They're part of your human experience, but they're not the whole story. They're temporary visitors in your consciousness, but they're not permanent residents in your soul. From this place of rest, you can see that worry was never really about the future events themselves. It was about your fear that you wouldn't be able to handle whatever came. But lying here now, breathing slowly and feeling held, you're remembering a profound truth. You have never faced anything alone, and you never will. Every challenge you've ever encountered, you've encountered it surrounded by love, even when you couldn't feel that love in the moment. This love that surrounds you now has been present in every difficult conversation you've had to navigate, giving you words when you thought you had none. It's been present in every loss you've had to grieve, carrying you when your own strength gave out. It's been present in every fear you've had to face, providing courage that came from somewhere deeper than your conscious mind. It's been present in every uncertainty you've had to walk through, lighting just enough of the path for you to take the next step. And this same love will be present tomorrow, and the day after that, and every day stretching out into your future. Not as a distant deity observing from afar, but as an intimate companion walking so closely beside you that your steps fall into rhythm with the divine heartbeat. You will never, not for a single moment, be without this presence. You will never be asked to handle more than what grace makes possible. You will never face a challenge that doesn't come with its own provision already prepared. The future that has seemed so uncertain and potentially threatening is actually held in hands so gentle they can catch falling tears, yet so strong they can move mountains. These hands that hold tomorrow also hold you, right now, in this very moment. They're not wringing themselves with worry about what's coming in your life. They're steady, peaceful, confident in their ability to provide exactly what each moment requires. Feel yourself sinking deeper into this awareness, like settling into the most comfortable bed you've ever known. This isn't just furniture supporting your body. This is love itself supporting your entire existence. Every breath you take is breathed in this atmosphere of love. Every beat of your heart is sustained by this love. Every thought you think is held within this love. You exist within love like a fish exists within water. It's not just around you, it's the very medium of your being. From this place of deep knowing, sleep becomes not an escape from life, but a sacred participation in the rhythm of creation itself. Just as the earth turns away from the sun each night without fear that morning won't come, you can turn away from the day's concerns without fear that provision won't be there when you wake. Just as flowers close their petals in darkness without anxiety about whether they'll open again at dawn, you can close your eyes without worry about whether tomorrow's grace will be sufficient for tomorrow's needs. This letting go that you're practicing now, this release of control, this surrender to mystery, this trust in what you cannot see, this is actually the most natural thing in the world. It's what waves do when they release themselves to the shore. It's what leaves do when they release themselves to the wind. It's what seeds do when they release themselves to the dark soil. It's what every aspect of creation does when it stops fighting the current and allows itself to be carried by the love that moves all things. You are remembering now that you are part of this creation, not separate from it, not uniquely burdened with the responsibility of managing outcomes. You are held by the same love that holds stars in their courses and knows the exact moment when each flower should bloom. You are guided by the same wisdom that teaches birds when to migrate and tells the ocean where to stop its advance upon the shore. The intelligence that guides your life is not struggling to figure things out the way your mind does. It's not frantically making backup plans or losing sleep over potential problems. It operates from a place of perfect peace, perfect knowledge, perfect love. It sees the end from the beginning and works all things together according to a pattern of beauty that exceeds your wildest imagination. As you rest in this knowledge, feel how your body responds. Your jaw unclenches as you release the need to grit your teeth against uncertainty. Your shoulders drop as you let go of the burden of carrying tomorrow's concerns. Your hands unclench as you stop grasping for control and open yourself to receive whatever gifts are being prepared for you. Your entire nervous system shifts from alarm to calm, from vigilance to peace, from effort to ease. This physical relaxation is your body's way of recognizing a profound spiritual truth. You are safe. Not safe from every difficult experience. Life contains challenges that help you grow and compassion that deepens through suffering. But safe in the deepest sense, safe in your essential being, safe in your ultimate destination, safe in the knowledge that love will never let you go no matter what temporary storms you might have to weather. The sleep that is approaching you now is not just rest for your tired body and busy mind. It's a practice in the kind of trust that can transform your entire life. As you surrender to sleep, you're practicing surrendering to the mystery of your future. As you trust your body to restore itself without your conscious management, you're practicing trusting life to unfold beautifully without your constant oversight. And when you wake tomorrow morning, you'll wake not just refreshed in body, but renewed in spirit. You'll wake with the cellular memory of what it feels like to trust completely, to rest deeply, to be held safely. You'll wake with the embodied knowledge that you can handle whatever the day brings, because you won't be handling it alone. You'll wake with the quiet confidence that comes from having spent the night held in love's arms. Tomorrow's grace is already prepared and waiting for tomorrow's arrival. It's being woven together from threads of provision, opportunity, wisdom, strength, and blessing that you can't even imagine yet. The same love that is gently pulling you towards sleep right now is already awake in your future, arranging synchronicities, preparing encounters, opening doors, smoothing paths, and setting up divine appointments that will make your heart glad when you encounter them. You don't need to stay awake worrying about whether that grace will be sufficient. It always has been, and it always will be. You don't need to lie here planning and replanning how you'll handle future challenges. The wisdom you need will arrive with the challenges themselves, just as it always has. You don't need to mentally rehearse difficult conversations or frightening scenarios. The strength and clarity you need will be available in real time, just as they always have been. What you need to do now is the simplest and most powerful thing of all: trust and rest. Trust that you are loved beyond measure, guided with infinite wisdom, and held with unshakable security. Rest in the knowledge that your life is a beloved project of the most creative and generous love in the universe. Rest in the certainty that every chapter of your story is being written with your ultimate joy and flourishing in mind. As your breathing becomes slower and deeper, as your thoughts become softer and less defined, as the boundary between waking and sleeping begins to dissolve, you're not losing consciousness. You're gaining access to a deeper consciousness, the awareness that you are held and loved and guided even when your mind is quiet, even when your body is still, even when you can't see what's coming next. This is the most profound trust of all, the trust that lets you sleep. The trust that releases control, not just of your circumstances, but of consciousness itself. The trust that knows love will keep watch while you rest, that grace will continue flowing while you dream, that your story will continue unfolding in beautiful ways, even when you're not consciously participating in its direction. Sleep now, beloved soul. Sleep in the arms of love that never slumber, never weary, never let go. Sleep knowing that you are safer than you've ever dared to imagine, more loved than you've ever dared to hope, more carefully guided than you've ever dared to trust. Sleep in the peace that passes understanding, the rest that restores everything, the trust that transforms fear into faith and anxiety into anticipation. Tomorrow will bring its own gifts, its own grace, its own opportunities to experience the faithfulness that never fails. But tonight, you need only this: the blessed release of sleep, the sacred practice of surrender, the profound peace of trusting what you cannot see. Rest now in the arms of infinite love, and let tomorrow take care of tomorrow, while you take care of nothing at all except receiving the gift of this perfect, peaceful, holy rest.